Okay, I'm tired. I want to go home. All right, let's go to our takeaways page. We are now moving into our solving section. So a lot very similar to what we did. Remember, our goal is to find an LCD so that we can let it go. And we're going to check, do we have to turn anything subtraction to addition? And then we're going to go ahead and factor those denominators, and then we're going to find our least common denominator. So let's go back. Let's start with the first one. Yes, I do have a subtraction. Here it goes. And I cannot factor any of these denominators. And if you can see your LCD, great. But if you don't, here comes your table. And I have an x, the second one has a 3, the third one has an x. So I need everything to have 3x. Now, before we move on, what is the answer I don't want? I don't want this part of the denominator to be 0. So if I get 0 as an answer, I can't keep it. The 3 doesn't affect this because that number will never become 0. So it's only the part with the x. All right, so let's give it the parts that it needs. So takeaways, going here. Add the missing parts to the denominator, and whatever you do to the bottom, we're going to do to the top. All right, so first one needs a 3. Second one needs an x. The last one needs a 3. Whatever I did at the bottom, I'm going to do to the top. And now I can let the denominator go. So if all your denominators, in the equation have the LCD, you can let it go. And then we can just focus on the numerator to solve because we have an equation. Don't forget we're going to simplify like we did on the other problems, but then we're going to solve for the numerator and just pay attention to how many x's you have because you might have to factor to solve. All right, so numerator only. I have a 5 with a 3. I have a -1 with an x, and then a 1 with a 3. So this becomes 15 plus -1x equals 3. So now I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to subtract the 15 over, which gives me -12. Then I'm going to divide, and I get 12. And that is an acceptable answer. I just can't have 0. Okay, let's go to number 2. The denominators. I cannot factor any of these denominators. So I'm going to go ahead and find my least common denominator. And if you can see it, great. If you can't, here we go. All right, first fraction has an x minus 8. Second and third fraction have an x plus 2. So let's bring everything down, and this is what we need. Let's give our denominators what they need. So the first one needs an x plus 2, and the next two need an x minus 8. And now whatever I did at the bottom, I'm going to do to the top. And now that all the denominators are the same, we are going to let that denominator go and worry about our numerators. So, and I'm going to write right into this table. Okay, we need to get a lot cleaned up over here. So let's start with this. Let's distribute the 1 in, which is just x minus 8. Then let's come over here and have these neighbors meet. So we're going to get x squared. We're going to get a -8x, stacking it. We're going to get a 7x, stacking it. And we're going to get a -56, stacking it. So as far as the left side goes, 7x and 14. Not 17. 7x and 14. So if I bring this all together, I'll have 7x plus 14 on the left side. With all of these x's, let's see, 8x, 8x. These are actually all going to cancel out. My -8 and my -56 are going to make a -64 with my x squared. I do see different types of x's, so I'm going to have to factor. So I'm going to bring all of this stuff over, and I'll have x squared minus 7x, and then when I subtract my 14 here to my 14 here, I get -78. All right, so now what we're going to do is have to find factors of negative 78. I do not have the calculator up or anything like that. That will get me to my negative 7. I hope this is really nice. It is going to be. So I'm going to need factors of negative 78 that get me to negative 7. And looking, I just lost it. On my factor page, I see a 6 and a 13 will do that as long as this 13 is negative. Okay, here we go. All right, so easy factoring. I'm going to put x, and I can put my plus 6 and minus 13. My answers for now are negative 6 and 13. And then I just want to check with my least common denominator, which, now that I realize I've covered it all up. Well, anyway, let's just write down what it was. It was x minus 8 and x plus 2. So this part of the denominator cannot be 0, so I don't want an answer of 8. We're good. And this part of the denominator can't be 0, and that's a negative 2, which we don't have. So both of these answers are going to work. All right, let's just move down to number 4. So I do see subtraction, turning it into addition. I'm going to factor my denominators. None of these have a GCF, so just starting with the first one, I will need factors of negative 3 that make negative 2. So it's going to be 3x and 1x, simple factoring into x minus 3, x plus 1, that's gone. All right, the next one, no GCF, but it is a difference of squares, so it will become x plus 1, x minus 1. Don't need the old version. And then the one on the right, I will need factors of 3x squared that make negative 4x, and that's going to be a negative 3x and a negative 1x. So that will turn into x minus 3 and x minus 1. So if you can't see the least common denominator, here we go. Fraction 1, fraction 2, fraction 3, all for my LCD. So x minus 3, x plus 1, x plus 1, x minus 1, and then I'll have an x minus 3 and x minus 1. So here's my LCD, all 3 parts. Okay, before I go on, just because I might write over it, this part of the denominator, want to make sure I don't get 0 out of it, so I don't want 3 as an answer. This one, I don't want negative 3 as an answer, and for this one, I do not want 1 as an answer. If any of those pop up, they are extraneous. So in my checklist, the first fraction needs an x plus 3. The second fraction needs, messed up. Gosh, I'm just too tired. Okay, hold on, let's fix this real quick. It's not x plus 3. It was x plus 1. So I don't want negative 1 down here. All right. That doesn't, so going back, this doesn't need an x plus 3. It needs an x minus 1. All right. All right, the next one needs an x plus minus 3. And the last one needs an x plus 1. And now whatever I did the bottom, I'm going to do to the top. Now that all the denominators are the same, let's let it go. Here comes my numerator. So we have a 6 with an x minus 1. We have a negative 1 with an x minus 3. And we have a 2 with an x plus 1. So I'm going to distribute, stack my like terms. As I do that, positive 3, distribute. 2x plus 2. So if I combine these like terms, I get 5x minus 3 equals 2x plus 2. There is one type of x, so I'm just going to start solving. So I'm going to subtract my 2x over. I'm going to add my 3 over. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes, but it's very possible. And then x is worth 5/3, which is none of the things that I have over here, so we get to keep it. All right, next problem. I'm not sure if you can see that the least common denominator is going to be 8x. 2 of them already have it, so actually all I have to do is give this one an 8x, also to the top. And now that they're all the same, I'm going to go for my numerators. So this is actually 24x. And now that I have one type of x, I'm going to add my 1 over. And then I'm going to divide by 24. So my x is 6 over 24, or 1/4, or my decimal. And I just want to make sure that my denominator, my least common denominator of 8x, cannot be 0. So once I divide, I just don't want 0 as an answer, and I don't, so this is a great answer. Okay, number 5. So what can I factor? Oh, let's change the subtraction into addition. And I cannot factor 3, not x, but I can factor 6 into 2 and 3. So here goes my fraction 1, fraction 2, fraction 3 for my least common denominator. So we got a 3, we got an x, we got a 3 and a 2, so let's bring everything down, and let's make sure every denominator has this. So my first fraction is going to need a 2x, the next one is going to need a 3 and 2, and the last one's going to need an x. So giving this to the top. All right, let that denominator go. So I'm going to have a 1 times a 2x. I'm going to have a -1 with a 3 and 2. And then I'm going to have a 5 multiplying to an x. So I'll get 2x plus -6 equals 5x, one type of x. So let's start solving. I'm going to subtract my 2x over. Divide by 3, so x is -2. Does that work? So if I look at this least common denominator, which is 3x2 or 6x, and I don't want that to be 0, x just can't be 0, and it's not, so we are good to go. All right, so far no extraneous solutions. Hopefully this has one. Last problem, turning my subtraction into addition. Denominators being factored, no factoring, no factoring. Yes, this is a difference of squares. If you can't see your least common denominator, here we go. All right, we got an x minus 2, an x plus 2, an x plus 2 with an x minus 2. We've got what we need. All right, let's give those denominators what they need. So the first fraction needs an x plus 2. The second one needs an x minus 2. The third one doesn't. So now I'll do those things to the top. And I can let the denominator go. And I'm going to have an x with an x plus 2 equaling an x plus 3 with an x minus 2 and a negative x. All right, let's start cleaning up. Left side, distributing x squared, 2x. Right side, x squared, negative 2x, positive 3x, negative 6. And then I'll just bring that negative x, but make it -1x here. So my left side is x squared plus 2x. The right side is x squared, and it looks like all the x's cancel out with a -6. I see more than one type of x, so I'm going to bring, for instance, this over here. And when I do that, hey, these actually cancel out. Now I'm ready to solve. Divide by 2, and x is -3. Do I like that answer? I think so, because the only thing that would make this be 0 is a 2, and that's not an answer. And the only thing that would make this be 0 is a -2, and that's not my answer. So, no extraneous solutions. All right, that's it. That is our video. See you next week.